Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. Today I'm going to be showing off the recently released Steam version of Valkyria Chronicles. And the reason this is not a initial impressions piece is because I actually played this game back when it came out on PS3 several years ago. Um, but I wanted to give it another chance because I had actually only made it about a third of the way through the game, maybe more like half of the way through the game before I kind of gave up on it on the PS3. And I think a big part of the reason for that was because I was actually a little bit turned off by the fact that the game wasn't exactly what I had hoped that it would be. Um, but in retrospect, and now having spent some time with it again in this new version that was just recently made available on Steam, I'm realizing that maybe I was a bit unfair with this game whenever I first played it, and so I'm instead trying to look at it as what the game does do well, and what is good about it, as opposed to sort of complaining about or being disappointed in what it isn't. Um, so having said all that, let's just go ahead and jump into a new game. And what I'm going to do is basically take you through the first hour or so of the game, because I think it actually does a pretty good job of conveying a lot of the concepts and a lot of the gameplay mechanics. It'll also give you an impression to see how this game's unique hybrid of turn-based and real-time game mechanics kind of works, and give you a good sense as to whether or not this game is for you. Now, one thing I will say, the last thing I'll say before I hit new game, is one of the best attributes about this game is its presentation and the sort of technical artistry of it. It's one of the few games that I've ever played that honestly, to me, feels truly like an interactive anime, in the sense that they've really managed to take the anime style and apply it to 3D models in a way that I honestly don't think many, if any, other games have managed to pull off. And so I definitely want to let things like cutscenes play out so you can see just how impressively done a lot of that stuff is, and also to show that the production values on this game are really one of its best attributes. Oftentimes, I feel like, especially with strategy games, they don't really get the love and attention and detail that a lot of other AAA genres get. Um, but this is definitely not the case with Valkyria Chronicles. It's a game that I think, even being older now, it still stands up and holds up really well. And seeing it in 1080p here on PC is definitely a treat. So, having said all that, let's get started.
The year was 1935 EC. Two powers controlled the continent. In the east, the sun rose over the autocratic East European Imperial Alliance, otherwise known as the Empire. In the west, a network of loosely allied democracies formed the Atlantic Federation. Both powers depended on a precious mineral ragnite for their survival, and its growing scarcity led to the inevitable war. Hostilities began in the east when the Empire aggressively crossed their western border. The Atlantic Federation responded, and the Second European War was on. The Empire, with its vast military superiority, struck hard, gaining ground in early victories and putting the Federation on the defensive. Emboldened by their progress and momentum, the Empire set their sights beyond the borders of the Federation. In neighboring Gallia, a peaceful principality along the sea, they found their next victim, Gallia had long maintained its neutrality in the tensions between the two superpowers. But the rich stores of Ragnite under the Gallian soil proved too tempting for the Empire. It amassed troops along the eastern border and invaded with all the force of an avalanche. Prologue. Gallia to arms.
To arms! Okay, so when you get into the game proper here, and by the way, I still love that intro, even having seen it a dozen times now, it's still amazing. But anyway, when you get into the game proper, how they break this down is it's basically done in the form of like a historical reference, right? So the game is kind of told in flashback to a certain extent, and basically you get these chapters where you'll get like 4 or 5. Um, they call them episodes, I believe, per page in the book. And what happens a lot of times is like 3 or 4 of them will be just non-interactive cutscenes, or they'll be like little like sort of interstitials that tie the missions together. And then usually on each page of the book there'll be like one actual campaign mission that you do that's the actual gameplay. And actually, as you get further into the game, some of these panels will actually become optional, where you don't even necessarily need to watch all of the animations and the cutscenes and such to progress through the story. But I highly recommend doing it even if you don't have to, because A, they're really well done, and B, they add a lot to the story, and just C, it just goes to show like the level of depth that's actually present in this game, in terms of the fact that not only is there a ton of content that's sort of mandatory that you like have to experience, but even beyond that, for people who want to dig deeper, there's even more that you can get into. And hopefully by the time I'm done playing, all of these basic book features will get unlocked, and you'll be able to see all of the different things you can do with this interface. But for right now, we're just going to play through these first couple animations and do the first mission, just to give you a sense of how this all works. So, away we go.
March 1935. Outside the Gallian border town of Brule. Residents are leaving the town before the invasion, headed inland towards the capital.
I haven't been down this road in years. It really hasn't changed very much. Whoa. Already? Hey there, guys. You're beautiful. Starting early this year. You're heading upstream, huh? How's the water?
Freeze! Put your hands in the air. Slowly. Haven't seen you around before. What's your name?
My name's Welkin. And you are...
The one with the gun. We're with the Bruletown Watch. I'm Alicia. Alicia Melchiot. So, I'm wondering what you've been writing in that little book you've got there. Imperial spies are in the area.
This book is nothing, really. I was just sketching the fish and, you know...
Yes. Oh, I know. And you know there's a war on, don't you? All right then, Mr. Artist. We'll talk about fish sketching down at the station. Take him away.
Fish sketching, one of my favorite conversational topics.
Thanks,
Just for the record.
fish.
So that's, again, just an example of how this works. I think this next one is another cutscene as well. Um, and then I think after we get through this one, we'll actually get into the first battle. And I can talk a bit more about the game mechanics and how things work.
Flowers, bugs, and fish. You're not bad with a pen, are you? I have to say, they're really very good.
Thank you. So you see, I really was just sketching.
Maybe. Or this could be some kind of secret code. And I intend to take my time finding out for sure.
Great.
Welks? Is that you?
Isara! Oh, your timing is perfect.
What have you gotten yourself into now, Welkin? Wait. Don't you live at the old general's house? That's right. I'm General Gunther's daughter, Isara. You do know everyone's supposed to evacuate, right? Yes, I'm aware of that. My brother's here to help me move to the capital, but that may be difficult. I mean, unless you're willing to let him go, that is. Huh?
Awkward.
I apologize, but I was just doing my job, you know. I saw you with the notebook and thought you were a spy. Again, I'm really sorry about that.
Thanks. Don't worry about it. I can see how I might have looked a little suspicious.
Wilkes has a real passion for observing nature. That's why he's studying it at the university, right?
Guilty as charged. I get so into it sometimes I forget where I am or that somebody might be watching me.
Gunfire! Everyone keep your heads down!
Over there! Come on! Damn it!
Welkin, you can handle a gun, right?
Yeah. I mean, I made it through training anyway.
Well, they're probably just a small scouting team. We should be able to take them out.
I'm with you.
So a few things I wanted to say is, obviously you can see from that scene, this game really does not shy away from brutality, despite its aesthetic. You might, and those of you who are anime fans might not be surprised by that, but don't look at the fact that this is animated or done in a traditional animated style as a pass for it being a fairly graphic, gritty kind of game, and especially in terms of the way it presents violence. I think it has a really honest kind of true perspective on that sort of stuff. Um, Now there's a bit of a disconnect that you get into with some of the gameplay mechanics later on, where some of what's happening on the screen doesn't really match what necessarily you think should be the case. But I also think that has to do with them having to portray uh, the game mechanic versus the art aesthetic. And that's a little bit of what can get kind of weird about this game at times. But especially in the cutscenes in particular, I think they do a really good job of making the violence feel very real and authentic and weighty and poignant in a way that I think a lot of other games could take notes from. Like when crazy madness does occur, there always tends to be like a sense of gravity to it that I really appreciate. The other thing that I wanted to mention before I forget about it is this is totally one of those games where you don't get a lot of options in terms of your audio settings. So I'm very thankful in this case that Windows 8 now finally supports the mixer levels being saved per application, even when the app has been shut down and relaunched. Because this is one of those cases where I had to turn this game way down in the Windows 8 sound mixer. I think it's on like 2 of 100, because otherwise it's just deafeningly loud or way too quiet. And where that becomes relevant, let me just get through this little saving tutorial and I'll pull up the options. and explain what I mean by that is, so in the in-game options here, you have basically just background music and sound effect volumes. The problem is when you start messing with the sound effect volumes, not every sound effect is tied to this. So what ends up happening is if you turn this down at all, in game, some of the sound effects will still be really loud, and some of them will go proportionally to what you set the bar to. So if you're like me and you find the default volume setting to just be way too loud, you're better off just leaving the volume all the way up in game and going to the mixer in Windows and setting the game's volume there. And like I say, especially if you're on Windows 8, you're in luck because that mixer level will get saved even if you quit out of the game and relaunch it later. It will remember what the volume was supposed to be at the OS level. So that's a nice thing that they've done in Windows 8 where you don't have to worry about that so much anymore. But just to kind of close this loop on this concept, it is worth noting that like I would say that's an area where this PC port is maybe a little bit lacking. Like they maybe didn't put as much effort into giving you things like more options in game that would have been useful, like discreetly controlling different sound effect levels and stuff like that, like voice versus gunshots or all that sort of thing. And in fact, from the user interface standpoint, this basically is just like a straight port of the PS3 version. Like one thing I'm sure like people who are familiar with the PS3 will get a kick out of is if you go to save a game. This may look somewhat familiar to you. So, again, this is in a lot of ways a very straight port of the PS3 version. The only thing that you're really gaining from this version is the higher resolution support. And like I said, I'm running this in 1080p right now, and it looks pretty great in 1080p, which I'm pretty sure is higher than the PS3 was running it. But like as far as going in and editing that resolution and other options, it's basically one of those deals where when you launch the game, it'll give you like that standard Steam prompt where it's like play the game or configure the game. So you basically go into configuration the first time you launch it, and then set your resolution and all that sort of thing, and then you just launch the play option from that point forward. But I think I've delayed getting into this battle for as long as I possibly can to try to give people a chance to get on stream. So let's go ahead and jump into that and get into the meat of the actual gameplay. Or at least the beginnings of the meat of the gameplay.
Okay, here's the plan.
Because what you'll find with this game is just when you think they've introduced all of the mechanics or you've seen everything that it has to offer gameplay-wise, there'll be like a bunch of new stuff that it throws at you out of nowhere, which is kind of good, kind of bad, depending on your point of view. So these parts are actually not voiced, but basically it's just, I'm just going to breeze through this. Basically, it's just letting you know that your mission objective is to eliminate these enemy soldiers. Obviously, the flag down there at the bottom is your flag, so it's showing you like basically on the map where you're going to deploy and generally speaking where the enemies are coming from. And then, of course, as is typical of strategy games or tactical games, you're going to get some key objectives. Obviously, key characters can't die. You have to complete the mission in a certain number of turns, etc.
Let's get started. Just stay calm and get it done.
Not too outlandish or out there versus other strategy games you may have seen, but this is where things kind of start to deviate from what you might expect from these sorts of games, or
I see 3 of them.
games that might appear to be similar to this one, I guess is how I should say it, because again, the thing with Valkyria Chronicles is it's not really like any other game that you've played, because the way it hybridizes turn-based strategy in real time is pretty unique.
That's 3 too many. Stay sharp. Listen a second. There's something I should explain.
Okay, so basically it's talking about these command points, and the idea is basically command points are what it takes to actually move units on the battlefield. So basically you can say, you know, which units you want to move in which order. And something that they touch on later is the idea that like you can move the same unit more than once by spending multiple command points on that same unit per turn. But just for the sake of simplicity, let's move each of these units once this turn. So you can see we have these three infantry units, basically our two hero characters and like a scrub town watch guy that we can use to complete this mission. But let's go ahead and select Welkin.
Ready to go.
And here's where things get crazy, because bam, you just drop right into the world and you are in it to win it, as it were. So the command points are what actually lets you initiate movement of the unit, and then the action points are the unit's movement within the actual game world. So you can see there we have an enemy directly ahead of us, and we would probably want to go and pay him a visit, I would think. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, this is where this game can be somewhat frustrating for people who are accustomed to traditional turn-based strategy games. So the key difference here is when I go to move this guy, I'm literally going to be moving him with the left stick on my Xbox controller here, right? So, excuse me one second. Sorry, need to clear my throat there. So basically, in a traditional turn-based strategy game, you would have like a grid or something, or some hexes or something that you would, where you'd select where you wanted your character to move, and then that would consume up some of this action bar. But the difference here is I can just move my left stick on my controller, and you'll see as I'm moving around here, that action bar is draining, right? So literally every movement that you make, aside from changing your orientation, consumes those action points. So what I want to do here is, before I run out of action points, I'm actually going to run up to this cover position. It's actually going to try to tutorialize me on attacking here, but since I already know this, I'll skip ahead and explain. So what I basically want to do is go up to this cover point, and you'll see I get the cover, or the crouch prompt, because I'm near cover. So I can do that, and that'll make me harder to hit when this guy returns fire on me. And then again, because I'm using a controller in this case, I'm just going to hit the right bumper, and that'll bring up this view. Now I can move this view around as much as I want, and that doesn't consume any action points at all. So I can completely look around myself, you know, 360 degrees, and see what all is available around me. The other thing I can do is I can hit the bumpers, and that will actually cycle through the available enemies. But I can also use the left stick to target specific body parts, and if you find that to be too twitchy, which I often do, you can actually use the D-pad to specifically tweak where you want to fire. So what you'll see in the upper left of the screen is you've got these two kill, shots, and versus boxes, right? So the circle in the versus personnel indicates that the weapon I'm currently using is effective against enemy personnel, but the X's for armor and area indicate that it's not effective versus those kinds of targets. And then, of course, to kill means 7 of my shots would need to hit this part of the enemy to kill them, of the 5 shots that I'm going to be taking with this weapon during my attack. However, if I kind of tweak my aim up a little bit, you can see there I can actually target his head specifically, which only requires 2 of my 5 shots to hit. So obviously you're going to want to do that, right? So I'll go ahead and hit A, and he'll go ahead and take a shot, and hopefully 2 of them will land, and I'll be able to eliminate this enemy. And there you have it. Now, had that not worked, had only one or zero of those 5 shots actually connected with the enemy,
Yes!
they would have been able to return fire on me, which is why I wanted to crouch before I took the shot, so that if they had the opportunity to return fire, I'd be better protected by being crouched behind this cover. The other thing, though, that you want to keep in mind is that there's a bit of inconsistency in the game where, like, not everything that's waist high is actually considered a cover object. So, like, for example, this wall next to me, if I were to, I think I have enough action points I can try this. So, like, this is not considered cover, right? So I can't crouch here and minimize my uh, uh, vulnerability, even though this is clearly, hard cover. So the game has some kind of weird eccentricities and rules that you have to kind of get used to. So it's basically like sandbags, things that appear to be specifically designed to be cover tend to work in that way, but not everything does. So again, something to keep in mind. If you're going to be playing this game, you want to become conversant with what actually functions as cover that you can crouch behind. Um, so let's go ahead and end our turn for this guy anyway, and that's just hitting B and then confirming that, and then that'll take us back up to the overall strategy map. And you can see up in the upper left there, I'm down to 2 of those command points, which means I can either move these other 2 units 2 times, once each, or I could move this guy 2 more times before my turn ends. The problem is, if I only move this guy 2 more times, he's going to get separated from the other units that are with him. One second. Sorry about that. Have a little bit of a tickle in my throat for some reason. It's not clearing up like I was hoping it would, which may end up cutting the stream short. Excuse me. But let's see if I can power through it. What we're going to do then is move these other characters up. So let's go ahead and move our other hero character up to the sandbags. And as you can see, she's still got quite a bit of movement left. But I also know that there are enemies over there that I maybe don't necessarily want to expose myself to. So let's go ahead and take a crouch and hit the bumper and cycle through these enemies and see what sort of options we have here. So you can see the hits that I need to land on that guy to actually take him out are 28 of 5 shots that I'm going to be taking. So at that range, it's pretty unlikely that I'd be able to kill that guy. We can see if I can try to hit him in the head. So you can see, like, there's the headshot potential. At that range, I'd still have to hit 8 of 5, which means I'm not going to get him in a single attack. But maybe I can at least damage him. Let's see if I can even land a hit at this range. So it looks like I got 3 hits on him there at that range, which is pretty good. As you can see, it almost makes me want to try to land a few more. But I think what I want to do at this point, honestly, is just cozy her up with the other hero character and leave room here at the sandbags to move my town guard guy up. Let's get him into position and ready to chip in on this engagement, and maybe he can take a few shots at that guy as well. So basically, for each command point you spend, you're going to get to move a character and attack with that character, generally speaking. So if all of these shots were to hit, that guy would be dead. But I don't think that's very likely to happen. But stranger things have happened, so let's give it a shot. So you saw that one little flash of light on him indicating that one of the shots did hit, but unfortunately that was all I was able to connect with there. So he will be pretty wounded. I think that would basically put him at half health, and he obviously was not able to return fire on us at that range. So that puts us in pretty good shape. So let's go ahead and end this turn and let the enemies play out their turn. Now, one thing about the way this game works, and it's actually one of the biggest points of frustration for me about it, and it's one of the reasons I had such a hard time dealing with it initially, is uh, there's this phenomenon where when you're moving and it's the opposing faction's turn, if you move into the open, in other words, if you move into the line of sight of enemies, they will continuously fire on you as long as you're moving. And in some cases, even if you just stand still and you're in a good line of sight for that enemy, they will continually fire upon you basically until you're dead, even if you just sit there and do nothing. And that does not ring true for how enemies are dealt with by your characters when it's their turn. So like if an enemy moves, that will trigger a reaction shot from any of your characters that it comes into their line of sight, but they will not just continuously fire on them until they're dead in the way that the enemies will do to you if you cross their path during your turn. So that inconsistency in behavior is actually one of the biggest, I'd say, issues with this game. And it's something you really have to come to terms with fairly early on and kind of try to get beyond if you're actually going to have any success in the game and get deeply into it long term, because it's one of those things that you just can't avoid. You can't prevent it from happening. So you just have to accept the fact that it does happen and kind of play around that issue. Because if you try to kind of butt heads with it and just get frustrated by it, you're just inevitably going to end up having a bad time with the game and probably not enjoying it very much. So that's something to be aware of, is that the way your units are treated by enemies is not the same as the way enemies are treated by your units when the opposing turns are happening. And I'm sure we'll get to see some examples of that, but I just kind of wanted to throw it out there as one of the big sort of mechanical things with the game that might be off-putting to some who are thinking about getting into it. Yeah, so those guys had a couple of shots there they could take because of the enemies moving into their line of sight. Yeah, they saw that one move but didn't feel like they could shoot, which is always interesting to see those the way that the game interprets whether or not an enemy can just be seen or can be shot at, I think is another thing that's somewhat questionable. Um, Sometimes you'll be in situations where it really seems like your guys should be able to shoot an enemy, but they just won't take the shot. And then conversely, you'll be in situations where you think, oh man, there's no way this enemy should be able to see me, much less shoot at me. And then they shoot at you like no problem whatsoever. And again, it's a little bit weird how that stuff works. But you know, I feel like pretty reasonably confident in saying that I feel like the game uh, is at least reasonably consistent in the way that it does things, such that once you come to terms with how it functions, you can start to predict behaviors in a way that's reasonably consistent, such that 90% of the time you'll be able to predict what's going to happen, even though you might not necessarily agree with what the game is doing and how it's interpreting its own rule set. You can at least get to a point with it where it's consistent enough that you don't feel like it's cheating you too badly. Um, but It's just a matter of being able to accept it for what it is, as opposed to, being turned off by what it isn't, or any inconsistencies there might be there. Okay, so here you can see that guy is continuing to shoot at me, and I'm continuing to take damage here, just standing still, right? If I stand here long enough, these guys will shoot me to death, even though I'm not moving, okay? So that's like a problem, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and initiate combat, or initiate my aiming sequence, and that will stop them from firing at me. But you have to keep in mind, when I fire at them, they're gonna get to fire back at me even before I get to move and disengage from them. So I'm going to end up taking at least a little bit more damage from this encounter, regardless of what happens at this point. But I might as well fire at them because I've come this far and taken this much damage. So I might as well at least try to get something out of it. Now you can see here, I can do the body shot, or I can tweak and go for the headshot. And here, I only need 1 out of 5 of the headshots to land to finish this guy off. But the debate is, is the headshot going to be more likely to hit? Probably not. They don't reveal the percentages for headshots versus body shots. You might make the argument, oh, the body shots should be easier to get, but notice that I need 4 out of 5 of them to land to do the same as the single headshot. So playing the odds, I think it's more likely that I'll get 1 out of 5 headshots than it is that I'll get 4 out of 5 body shots. Because even if the percentage on the body shot is significantly better, it's probably not so much better that I'm guaranteed to get that many. So, having said all that, let's see if we can put this guy down, and also improve our odds of survival by eliminating one of the guys shooting at us. So there he goes. So again, okay, so now that's stopped the shooting at us, because I guess that guy is far enough away, that second guy, that he can't actually shoot at me without me moving towards him. But because my guy is somewhat injured, I kind of want to back him off and put him back behind cover to protect him. Now, again, here you'll see a bit of an issue where, like, I just kind of bumped up against that cover, but my guy decided that it would be cool to vault over it. So it's very touchy and finicky about all this stuff. And if you're kind of running low on action points, it can be really frustrating to try to get your guy exactly where you want him to be. Now, the one thing I'll say that's a bit of a saving grace about that is, as I mentioned earlier, changing orientation doesn't actually cost any action points. So if you end up basically where you want to be, and in the position you want to be in, but you just say need to face a different direction, you can do that with 0 action points, which is thankfully possible. So let's go ahead and give our main character some experience. She hasn't actually had a chance to shoot anybody yet, so let's go ahead and use her to try to take the second guy out. And actually, we will vault over the cover in this case, kind of get her moving and out of crouch in one kind of smooth motion. And let's go ahead and bring her into range and see at what point she can actually start firing at that other guy. Yeah, so now they give you the cover tutorial, which I think is hilarious because we've been using cover this whole time. But that's neither here nor there. So you notice that now this guy's firing at me and hitting me, which means, again, I'm in this situation where if I move, I'm going to take more damage from moving. So as soon as the enemies start firing at you, it really behooves you to just pull up your reticle and start targeting them, because that at the very least will stop them from firing at you and damaging you while you're trying to figure out what you're going to do. So definitely a pro tip and something to keep in mind as you're doing this stuff. And again, let's try to target the headshot here. We only need 2 out of 5 of these to land. Hopefully we'll get that. Oh, only one. That's a bit of a bummer. And you see again here she's taking damage just standing there, as his hits are landing occasionally. So again, if we're not going to move her, we want to end the turn as quickly as possible so she stops taking damage. But actually what we can do is use our last command point to play her
My
again,
turn, okay?
and we want to immediately go into our firing mode to prevent ourselves from taking damage, and then go ahead and try to get that last shot in on him. There, and finally we got it. The last of our 5 shots connected, so that takes him out and ends the mission. But you can see where
I don't see any more of them.
that behavior of them constantly firing at you once they've seen you, regardless of whether or not you're moving, is a pretty fatal issue, right? Like that can be a really hard thing to get over or accept in terms of how the gameplay in this game works. But if you can do that, if you can let yourself do that and kind of look beyond that major glaring issue, there really is a good game here. It's just that that's a really hard pill to swallow, especially if you're coming at this from the perspective of, a person who's used to tactical turn-based strategy games where you have all the time in the world to think about what you're going to do. And again, like I said, it is possible to mitigate a lot of that damage by just going into firing mode. But like say, for example, you've already fired in a turn and you're just moving your character around, it's real easy to get into a situation where you move into an enemy's line of sight and then they start firing at you, and like you have no way to pause the action and prevent yourself from taking damage. You just have to instantly react to what's going on. And once you can get used to that and like expect it as a behavior, you can kind of adjust to it and make that part of your gameplay. But again, I think it's a tricky thing for people who are accustomed to true full turn-based games, who are maybe coming to this game because they like that genre and want that style of gameplay. That disconnect or that not matching up to that could be really frustrating. I know it was for me playing it on the PS3. But again, coming at it fresh now here on PC and in the Steam version, and looking at the game in terms of what it actually is, as opposed to being disappointed in what it isn't, I feel like I have a much softer, more favorable view of the game now, and I'm enjoying it a lot more as a result. Oh man, I only got a B? None of my guys died. I killed all of them. I did it in 2 turns. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? Whatever. Good times. Alright, so let's check out our next episode. See what's up with that.
Miss Melchiot, there's no other sign of the enemy.
Good. Now, go keep watch and stay alert.
Yes, ma'am. What should we do with the bodies, ma'am?
We'll bury them. So it's begun. I'll do whatever it takes to protect the people of this town. I'll do it. Even going to war, I'll do it. What are those?
Seeds from the lion's paw. It blooms white, small, simple, and strong.
I want to be able to remember, once the war is over, that it wasn't all just people killing people. That even in war, there was also new life.
On the 15th day of the 3rd month of the year 1935, the Empire began its assault in earnest. A formal declaration of war was made upon Gallia, Though it was only a small front in a massive continental assault, what followed would prove that a tiny nation could best a military giant.
Spoiler
These
alert.
events would tell a story of tragedy hidden in the mists of time. A story of courage and of trust, of persecution and hate, and of love blooming even through the flames of war. What follows is a record of this conflict, and of those who fought, lived, and died. Chapter 1. In Defense of Brule.
So I said it before, but I do feel it bears repeating. Like, one of the best things about this game is the presentation and the just amazing, loving attention to detail, and just the full on oomph that they bring in how this game is presented. I think really it's really nice, to have a game that has this level of polish and like effort put into the presentation aspects of it, especially, as I said before, if you're a fan of strategy games or tactical games, and you're often disappointed by, how those games don't get the love that maybe you feel like they deserve as a fan of that genre. I think that's definitely one of the standout things about this game, is just how epic and cool everything feels, like how good the music sounds, how good the sound effects are, how good the animations are, and just the general art style and the way they capture the anime aesthetic. Like, there's a lot to like and praise about that.
Seeing that old mill spinning again really makes it feel like home sweet home.
I hear that. It really is one of the most beautiful things about this town. Well, citizens, our enemy can't be far behind. I thank you for your help. Goodbye, and take care.
How's the packing coming along, Ys?
Almost done. I only need to take the everyday basics.
Well, the Empire's got to be close by. Let's hit the road by sundown.
Martha, look! Welks is here!
Oh, welcome back, Welkies.
You're still calling me that? Martha, I'm 22 years old. And more important, you shouldn't be running around. Aren't you due any day now?
Ah, a light jog won't hurt the little spud. I should know. I've already had 4 of them.
Hello there. Is Welkin in?
Oh, hello, Alicia. What brings you here?
I just wanted to apologize. For before. Here. This is for you.
Really? These are for me?
I work at the bakery. Well, I did until the war started anyway. It's where I live, too. That's preserved bread, so it's pretty hard. Heat it up before you eat it, all right? I baked it myself, so the flavor's guaranteed. Best you ever had.
Thanks. Do you want to come in?
Arrested and shot at? You've had a busy day of it, haven't you, Welkies?
I feel like Martha knows how to party. Like she's not at all like concerned about this dust up that we've been in. Like she seems like the kind of lady who like go out for a night of drinking, maybe tie one on, like get attacked by some sort of like Wolverine on the way home and just put the smack down on it and kick it down the street and like use it as an amusing anecdote to tell like her grandkids about. Like I feel like Martha's representing like the hardcore like frontier woman aesthetic here. I'm just saying.
And what a lovely lady you are for all that adventuring. Good job, Welkies.
What? Wait, no, it's not like that. Alicia just saved my skin, that's all.
Trying to hook him up.
He's right, we just met. I'm not his girlfriend, just his hero. Although I'm really hoping to be his friend.
Oh, well, I'm sure you will. Be good to my Welkies here, won't you?
Okay, seriously, Martha, enough with the Welkies already.
That's a lovely portrait. Is that General Gunther?
Yep. It was taken before I was born. But that's Dad.
That's Dad? You're a lucky guy. And who's that with him, there? My father, Tamer. He was an engineer. The General's tank was his creation. Wait a minute. But I thought the General was your dad. My birth parents died when I was a baby. The General was kind enough to take me in as his own after that.
Yeah. We're not related by blood, but she's definitely my little sister.
Sorry, was that question too personal? No, I don't mind at all. I was blessed with two wonderful fathers. Yeah, I guess you were, huh? Oh, is that really the time? I've got to get going. Why don't you see her off, Welks? I can take care of the rest of this on my own.
Yeah, we're just sitting around having preserved bread, chewing the fat, looking at family pictures and stuff. But, there's fascist enemies like ransacking the town. It's cool, though.
All right, I will. I'll be right back.
See you later, Isara. Safe travels.
All right, so I'm sure you can assume that this is all just set up for the inevitable smackdown that's about to ensue, right?
Wow, look at this. Brule's really becoming a ghost town.
They've been leaving for a while. Just about everyone is evacuated by now. You can't blame them. Tensions are rising with the Empire. We'll survive. The Town Watch will guard and protect the home front. Everyone will come back someday. They'll come back when it's safe again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Welkin, I'm curious. Are you gonna join the army like your father?
I don't think that's for me. What I'd really like to do is be a teacher.
Huh. A teacher?
Yeah. Animals and insects, flowers and plants, they've always been my passion. I've learned a lot from nature. You see, my dad, he protected this country as a general, but it's just that I want to give back in my own way. My own way. You know what I mean?
I think I do. You're sure about it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's deep. In your own way. Ah! What was that?
That sound.
Not a sound you want to hear.
I don't believe it. The mill.
Miss Melchiot, the Imperials are attacking. There's a squad of them in town right now.
Get all the town watch together, now! We've got to fend them off.
They must be at Mill Plaza. I'll help.
Thanks, Welkin. Now move out! Stay low! I'll
Time for
explain
some
the mission.
payback. Let's do this thing. So again, similar setup. We're coming up from the south. They're coming down from the north.
Okay,
Our
let's
main
begin.
guys can't die, and we need to eliminate the enemies.
Our target is the Imperials in Mill Plaza. Focus on taking down their captain. Breaking the chain of command should at least buy some time for the townspeople to get away.
All right, I got it. Let's all be careful out there.
It's like Hill Street Blues anime style.
Got a second?
Alright, so they're going to talk about like how basically you can heal damage, a small amount of it per round. So like even if you do take some damage from being exposed to an enemy's line of fire, like that in and of itself is generally not speaking going to be too bad, because you'll usually end up just healing that on the next round, assuming you don't take more. But if you do end up taking a lot of damage unexpectedly, there is actually a healing item that's based on that Ragnite metal that they were talking about in the intro, which is basically like the game's equivalent of like a healing potion. So let's go ahead and get Welk some action here.
Ready to go.
Let's get him moved up into cover and see if we can take one of these guys out. Alright, yeah, so they're gonna talk about sight lines. Line of sight works just like you would think. Anytime you can see an enemy, you get those arcs, in the air, indicating that. Let's go ahead and get him into cover. And again, though, you can see these guys are just unloading on me because they can see me. So again, I want to get into that covering and start shooting as quickly as possible. The one weird thing about the way that works is, say your guy's in a position where they can be shot, as long as you're not controlling them, the enemies won't actually shoot at them. So even though, like, as long as I'm in control of this guy, the enemies would keep shooting him and potentially damaging him. As soon as I relinquish control of him, they'll stop shooting, which is another, like, weird thing that you have to get used to. So sometimes it behooves you to just end your turn, just to prevent your guy from taking more damage from standing in an area where the enemies can see him. So basically we got two enemies here, and you'll notice the other enemy is crouching behind sandbags. So even if I put my cursor like directly on his melon there, I'm not going to get a to hit bonus for hitting him in the head, because when you're crouched behind cover like that, you're immune to headshots. And that applies for both your characters and the enemies. So what I am going to do instead is target this guy, because he's not crouched behind his sandbag, so I still can hit him for 2 out of the 5 shots theoretically and take him out. Oh, nice. My opening 2 shots hit.
Yes.
Pretty sweet. Okay, so that guy is still able to shoot at me, so I want to hurry up and relinquish control before he continues to hit me anymore. And like I said, he won't keep shooting at Welks, even though he can see him, because I'm not actually controlling him anymore. Okay, so I want to try to get Alicia as much experience as possible because she's really,
My turn, okay?
a character that I'm going to carry forward as I go here. So let's try to move her up into a potential firing position. Let's see what she can do. Again, I can't actually go for the headshot here, unfortunately. And you see none of her shots. I guess all of her shots connected because she only has 4 more that she needs to do. Let's go ahead and take our other point with her and see if we can get enough of those to hit. We can actually take that guy out. And we'll leave the town watch guy in the background for now. Yeah, let's see if we can do that again. Yeah, so they didn't all hit that time, which is unfortunate. But that puts her in a good position to attack him if he does move. So I think that was still a good use of that point. So theoretically he will move, and when he does, they should be able to shoot him down, since his health should be pretty bad. Nice. Took that guy out. So she should get to return fire on him. There we go. Nice. Alright. She's taking some damage, but should be okay. So that guy like ran back behind that corner again. But at least we know where he is. So let's go ahead and let's check her health. Okay, so all her health got recovered, so whatever damage she took during that turn got healed. So that's good. And same thing with Welks. So
Here we go.
we'll go ahead and move him up. Try to get him some more action. Since she's been kind of hogging the kills here. So we know there's a guy over here. We just gotta find him. And he's facing towards us, which means he gets to fire directly at us. But hopefully I can take him out. There we go.
Yes.
Alright, and I still have a bunch of action points left, so let's go ahead and move up to the next set of objectives here. And then let's get out of this mode so these guys can't just keep shooting at us. And let's go ahead and bring Alicia up, and she'll actually be able to take a shot from those sandbags.
Enemy sighted.
So we got 2 enemies here. That one is not crouching, so we'll go ahead and try to take him out. And let's go ahead and bring our town watch guy up. Let's see if I can get him all the way up there in one turn. These scout units have quite a bit of movement, so it's actually possible to run him all the way up here. And again, because he's crouched, I get no bonus for the headshot, but at least I can try to put some hurt on him. Town watch guy does not have the best aim. Let's go ahead and end that before he takes any more damage. Hopefully their reaction shots to him moving will be enough to finish him off. Since all 3 of them are there. Yep.
Sounds like a tank.
Nothing good can come of this. So as you can see, things have taken a bit of a dark turn. And obviously those M1 Grands are not going to be much of a match against that tank. Although you will notice there is that suspiciously glowing spot on the back of said tank, which actually is at least somewhat vulnerable to regular gunfire, but more so like machine gun fire than per se what you would get from these rifles, and more so things like grenades as far as like infantry units go.
Welkin, tank!
That's not good. We're not equipped to take out a tank.
Yeah, so as the characters are even saying, like there's no real way they can deal with this tank. Their best hope is really just going to be to avoid it.
I hate to say it, but we should probably pull out for now. Get off this road and into the alley to the east. It's too narrow for a tank to follow. And try to stay behind cover while moving. One blast from that turret and it's over.
Okay, so let's see who got blown off of the cover. So that was the town guard guy, and you see he's really messed up, right? Like he's hurt pretty bad. But because it's the town guard guy, we're not too worried, because he doesn't actually need to live, and he's not going to progress with us to subsequent missions. So he's kind of a disposable unit, to be honest. But what we may want to do, if he's not immediately taking damage, which he is. Yeah. So that becomes the problem, right? Is like when you're taking fire like that, you don't even really have any time to think about what you want to do. Like I was trying to cycle through his items with the X button there to see if I had a healing item, which it looked like I did, but I didn't even have time to get to cover and use it before those guys mowed me down. So that was just a really unfortunate circumstance, and it was just lucky that it was like a non-critical character there who got blown off the cover by the tank. But since that's not either of our hero characters, the mission is not over, but you can see just how dangerous a situation like that can be, where you have like these guys now who have spawned basically in the direction where we need to go, and then you have the tank here covering the street, so we're going to have to be real careful about how we move over here to try to get to our objective. And we're just going to have to really rely on the mobility of these guys to get where they need to go and do what they need to do.
Moving out.
So let's go ahead and try and see if we can get Alicia into a decent position. Now, they actually can't fire at me yet, and she's at full health even if they could. So she's in a much better position to be able to deal with the situation. So what I want to do before I even move, so I don't waste any of these action points, is kind of try to figure out where I want to take her. And I think what I want to do is try to head to that cover spot that's over there so that I can shoot at the enemies from behind those sandbags. So what I'm going to try to do is kind of move over in this general direction and try to avoid getting hit by them until I get to the cover point. So I did take a little bit of damage there, but not like an egregious amount. And now I just want to start picking off these enemies. And how I want to do this is in such a way that it makes it easier for Welkin to get here. So like that guy is going to be the first guy who could fire at Welkin when he moves. So I'm going to go ahead and take him out first. and that'll help clear a path for him. And then I, of course, again, immediately want to end her turn so she takes as little damage as possible, because obviously those guys would just keep firing her the longer I wait to end the turn. And I know I keep repeating some of these points, but it's really important that you understand the mechanics of how this game actually works, because if you don't catch on to this stuff early on, it can make the later missions extremely difficult to deal with. And you can see again, they're not firing at her, even though they technically could. They're only firing at me because I'm controlling him right now. And again, because I go into firing mode, they stop firing, which means I have time to deal with them. So I'm going to take out the guy who's closer to me, because he has a better chance of hitting me at that range. So I want to eliminate the greater threat first. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Yes.
And then hopefully we can survive this, at least a round of this tank, and then take out those other two enemies and make a run for the exit, and hopefully successfully complete this mission. Yeah, so the tank just fired at me, but it also is providing a little bit of cover there. Well, not now, it's not, because it moved forward. But fortunately, they used their command points moving the tank up and firing on me, which means that now the enemies didn't actually get to move. So let's see how dinged up Welkin is. He's okay. As long as he doesn't take too much more damage, he should be fine. But what I want to do is have Alicia go first and have her take out the guy that's between us and our objective, so that when I go to move Welkin, he'll only have one guy potentially firing on him. So let's go ahead and take her first and get her immediately into firing mode. So I wasn't able to completely eliminate her taking damage, but I didn't let them do too much. Let's see if I can get his head targeted. This is where the D-pad is really important, to be able to make those fine adjustments to your aim. So let's go ahead and see if we can take this guy out. Okay, I wasn't able to hit him twice, which is a bummer. So I'm going to have to exit her turn as quickly as possible. And then let's see, she still has more health than he does, so let's go ahead and let her take another crack at that guy.
My turn, okay?
And again, you can never hit it fast enough to completely avoid damage. So like if you have a little sliver of health left, just selecting your guy might be enough to get them killed, depending on the circumstances. But if you're quick on the bumper and you hit it pretty much immediately, you can usually negate most damage in situations like this. So hopefully at least one of these 5 shots will connect. There we go. Okay, and now with her remaining movement, we just want to haul butt across this street and get to the extraction zone, which is basically like anywhere here around the corner. And we'll actually just put her into cover just to be safe about it. And then that takes care of her. She's where she needs to be. So now with our last command point, let's see if we can get Welkin across the street. Let's see if he can actually shoot at the guy who's able to shoot at him.
Ready to go.
And clear a path for himself. So yeah, it looks like he can be hit in the head. So let's see if we can do that. And then we don't have to worry about being fired upon while we're running across the street. Nice shooting, Tex.
Yes.
Alright. So now we can safely come out of cover here and just run across the street. The tank doesn't have any reaction shots, so we don't have to worry about that. And we just get him where he needs to go, and objective complete.
Phew. Looks like we shook him. What are you doing from here?
If they're rolling in the tanks, there's not much the Town Watch can do. We'll try to buy time so everyone can get away. I'll dig in my heels at the main gate and do what I can to stall them.
Okay, I'll head back to my house and grab Isara and Martha, then come back.
Be careful out there, Welkin.
See? Well, I guess the Town Watch guy did die. There's that.
Chapter 2. Escape from Brule.
Isara, Martha, please be okay.
Oh, now you're worried.
Martha!
What's her problem? She pregnant or just fat?
Who cares? Not gonna make any difference when she's dead.
Stop this now.
See what she's wearing? Take a good look at that shawl. She's a Darkson.
And that explains it. I thought this place stunk. Now I know it does. So, we got ourselves a fat one and a stinky one. P.U. It's a regular pig farm in here.
I will thank you to watch your tongue in this house. You have to leave, now.
That's a big gun for such a little girl. Drop it.
Isara!
Huh? Hold it right there! Die! Darkson pig!
Isara, are you okay?
I'm okay thanks to you. But Martha, I think she's...
Martha!
This isn't good. She's gone into labor. Moving her would be dangerous.
Right. Well, we can't just leave her here. What are we gonna do? There are a lot of Imperials out there, Ys. It's only a matter of time before they take over the Mill Plaza.
Welks, listen. The barn out back.
What about it?
Our fathers have left us something. Something that might get us out of this mess.
A pen and pencil set? No, something way cooler than that. Let's see it. Aw, snap.
Dad's tank. Whoa. I can't believe it's still here.
And it's one of a kind. Here it is, the Edelweiss. Tamer built it especially for General Gunther.
Yeah, and it worked great, too. So it's just been parked here in the barn?
I wanted to make sure it would still operate, you know, in case of emergencies. I enrolled in a maintenance class given by the military. I wanted to be able to do what my father could do.
Well, that's great. But that's only a class, Isara.
It really didn't need much. Hardly any alterations at all. I just fitted it with a new turbine engine. It really improves on the power-to-weight ratio. The Edelweiss is field-worthy. Its firepower and mobility are more than a match for recent models.
Well, assuming it does work. What's next?
All right. Welks, you took the armored vehicle course, didn't you?
Yeah. Back in high school. Once.
We'll bring Martha here. She'll be safe inside the tank, and we can move to a better location. Just leave the driving to me, okay? All you have to do is give the orders.
That's how I roll, honey. Let's do this. I would
Isara,
like fries
you ready
with
to
that.
roll?
Engaging engine. The Edelweiss is ready for deployment.
Alicia could still be out there dodging bullets, buying time for people to evacuate. Here's the plan. We're gonna pick up Alicia and get out of town.
Sounds like a
All
good
right,
plan.
Edelweiss, move out!
Fucking up now! Edelweiss, Edelweiss.
Here's the brief for this operation.
Happy to meet you. Alright, so in this scenario, we have to defend the town gate against the gnarly enemy type peoples and stall for time until Welkin arrives with the Edelweiss to kill the enemy tank, which is rocking the town gate. Simple,
All
right?
Let's begin.
We got
We've
this.
got to stop them here.
Yeah, we got this. So on the defense here, we've got Alicia
If this
and
gate falls,
a couple of
there's going
town
to be even
guards.
more casualties among the townspeople.
Yeah, I got it.
The town watch will defend this gate so as many people as possible can get away.
I'm down.
Got a second? Listen close and I'll explain.
Alright, so, again, they get into... Oh, okay, so this is where they introduce hand grenades officially. I think she's actually been carrying a hand grenade for the past couple of missions, although I haven't really felt the need to use it. But basically, yeah, you can eliminate the sandbags as cover in addition to doing explosive damage to enemies by using the hand grenade. And again, if you're using a controller, that's just toggling through the different weapons and equipment your character is holding with the X button. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Let's go ahead and set up the town guard, this one town guard guy on the other side of the street, so that we can potentially set up a little crossfire action here. Yeah, let's go ahead and get him into crouchy. See if he can actually hit anybody. So that's 28 to hit. Obviously, we're not going to do anything to that tank, but let's see if we can. Nah, that guy's in good cover. I'm just going to take the shot because it's free. It doesn't hurt anything to take it. So let's see if we can. We hit him a couple times. Just probably nicked him a little bit. Let's just go ahead and leave him parked there. Try to split the enemy fire a bit. Let's just make sure we get this guy into a good defensive position. Yeah, let's just go ahead and crouch him right here. And oh wait, let me just double check and make sure I can't hit anybody. Yeah. Okay, there's that guy. So he's questionable. Let's see if I can target the head. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna do any real damage here, but at least I'm crouched behind these sandbags now. And then with our last point, let's get Alicia into a good defensive position on that corner sandbag. Alright, and let's see what she can hit. Maybe she might have a better crack at him. Yeah, she can't do much more, but yeah, got a couple hits in. More than I was expecting, honestly. Alright, so again, this is just about really stalling for time and keeping these enemies at bay as much as possible until we get a little further. So actually I don't need to spend another command point this turn, so I'm actually going to save this one that I have left, because any unused command points go to the next turn. So by saving that one. I'll actually have an extra next time, which I'll probably need. That tank looks very angry. Fortunately, I think it's more concerned about blowing up the gate than it is about killing us. Yeah, it's just gonna totally focus on burning that gate down. So you can see this guy's run in behind me to try to get behind the guy, but we were able to do enough damage to him that we could kill him before he got into position. Return fire! Do it! Fire! Alright, so we got that guy coming over the hill to the right there. That guy's coming down the street. Let's see if this guy can... Oh, oh, that guy is getting shot in the face. Oh. Alright, nice. Took that guy out. That removes one of their command points from their pool because he was a leader. So that's good. They'll now have one less command point next turn because he's dead now. Yeah, ideally we would like to use that Ragnade on that one guy who's probably pretty injured, but we may not even be able to select him until this other guy's dead for fear that he'd just die instantly. Yeah, I don't know though. I don't know. We might be able to get a shot off. What kind of shape is this guy in? He's hurt, but he's not too bad off. Now, if I select Alicia, this guy won't get fired at, even though he's at point blank range, because won't actually have him under control. But actually, I think the first thing I want to do is see if I can get this other scout to take the guy on the hill out before he gets to advance anymore. So let's see how that goes. So there's that guy. Nice. Only 1 of 5 needed for this. Nice. Good shooting, Tex. Alright, so that takes care of him. We'll just reorient this guy along the sandbags a little bit. Get him facing the proper direction, and then we'll end his turn. And then let's see if Alicia can do this other guy a solid and take the guy who's in his face out.
Moving out.
So there's that guy. Yeah, and I don't think he's technically crouching. It's weird though, because it says, I guess technically speaking he is, but what I could do is try to grenade him and see if I can eliminate his cover. Although I can't quite reach him from where I am. I'm not sure if that would actually be close enough to take those bags out, to be honest. So what I may want to do is move her up a little bit, throw the grenade, and then move her back to cover as quickly as possible before he gets to take any free shots on me. So let's see if I can do that. Alright, yeah, there we go. We can actually very precisely target him now. That's pretty much on the money, I think. Let's go ahead and toss that grenade. So that rocks that guy's face off, and then we can head back here and get back into our cover position. And let's just switch back to the rifle just to be safe. Make sure she has that ready to go. And then what that should do is that should put this other guy in a pretty good position. It looks like she actually killed that guy with the grenade, which is sweet. So let's go ahead and select this guy. Ooh, oh man. He is getting rocked by that tank. Was not expecting that level of insanity there. Okay, well I can at least show you how the Ragnade thing would work. I mean, this guy is kind of a lost cause because even if I heal him, he's probably going to die before I even get to move him or do anything with him. But what I'll try to do is heal him and then immediately end the turn and see if we can keep him alive at least another turn. Alright, so yeah, I was able to get him back up to half health, and then I'll end the turn before he dies. Alright. So let's see, we got 2 command points left. Let's just go ahead and save those, honestly, because they'll be handy to have next turn. The town gate has seen better days.
No! If this keeps up...
Oh no! Oh, bullets hurt. They hurt. Oh, they hurt. Now one nice thing is now that that cover is gone. So I was going to say that guy had to run behind those other sandbags because the forward cover wasn't there anymore. Aw, town guard. No. No. That bums me out. Oh, seriously, guys? Oh man, this is not good. You guys are in a bad position. Okay, good. She at least got one of them. Okay, so Welkin has showed up with the tank, which was good, and it's good that we were able to save those 2 command points, because unlike infantry, tanks actually take 2 command points per turn to function. So we'll actually be able to get an extra move out of the tank this turn, which should prove very useful based on the way things are going.
Here we go!
The tank should be able to breach that wall. It may provide us with a shortcut, Welks.
Shortcut.
Alright, let's give it a shot. Hang in there, Alicia.
Alright, so it's basically going to go through the whole spiel about tanks. Basically, they have 3 different weapons. They have shells, mortars, and machine guns, which are basically for either armored or single targets, or infantry, or groups of infantry is where you would really want to use the mortar. But just to take this wall out, we can just use a good old-fashioned shell. So we'll just go ahead and target that and give it the boom business. And then get the tank moving here and try to get into position to
Enemy sighted!
jack that other tank.
Hostile sighted!
Tank! It's a galleon tank!
Yeah, you should be scared. Pie-faced.
Alicia, I'm sorry we're late.
Welkin, you have a tank?
I'm full of surprises, baby.
We can talk later. Right now, we need to stop those soldiers.
Enemy tank sighted, Welks. Switching to anti-tank combat. Armor-piercing shells loaded.
All right, let's go take it down.
Yeah, let's do this thing. So it can be a little bit finicky actually moving the tank, and since I've already fired once this round to get through the fence, I can't actually do anything more since I've used up all my action points to get this far forward. But again, because I saved those 2 command points from the previous rounds, I can actually just select the tank again, and you can see I still have 5 command points for this turn. So I could actually do 2 more moves with the tank this turn, and still have a point left to move one of the infantry if I want to.
Here we go.
Which is cool. Well, let's go ahead and try to get the tank out onto the street. Get him oriented and moving towards enemy tank, because now we want to target enemy tank. Alright, so you can see here it would be 3 hits normally to kill this tank with the anti-tank shell, but if I try to target the back, the vulnerable spot, theoretically I can do it in 2. Now the problem is trying to hit that smaller spot, I may miss completely, which can be a bit risky. So the question becomes, do I try to get this and try to hit it again this same turn? If I could get this tank taken out this turn, that would make life a lot easier. But it's a bit of a risk, because if I miss this shot, then I've wasted my extra action and not actually done any damage to the enemy tank. But let's go ahead and try it. I'm feeling saucy. So let's see if we can actually hit this thing. Okay, good. So I hit him good, and now I don't even have to target the weak spot next time. I'll only have to hit him just in general to take him out. So that was a good advantage of doing that. Yeah, so basically the tanks have action points, they have weak spots. The tanks have 2 different kinds of damage absorbing things. They have their bodies and their treads. If their treads take too much damage, that limits their mobility. And if their bodies take too much damage, well, they die. And unlike infantry units that heal up a little bit of health each turn, when a tank gets damaged, it doesn't regen any health unless it's in proximity to a base or is repaired by an engineer. So, you can feel a little more confident when you're damaging tanks that they're going to stay damaged unless there's something specific that is going to give them their health back. But let's see. Again, now that I know I only need to hit that tank 1 more time to take it out, I feel like that's probably what I want to do.
Here we go.
Just to eliminate it as a threat. So let's go ahead and do that. Like so. So yeah, I only need to hit him once anywhere. So I'm just gonna go basically center mass on him and try to take him out. Yeah, so I'm sure at that range there wasn't that much probability of that failing, but since I completed the objective,
Yes, we stopped it. Nice work.
I don't even have to worry about killing those other infantry. I can just move on to the next mission. So even though Alicia was in kind of a bad spot there with those enemies on the other side of the street behind the sandbags, because I completed the objective, I don't even have to deal with that.
Woohoo! Now you're my hero, Welkin.
The assertion there being that without their tank, the enemy would just fold and retreat, because they obviously can't destroy the gate with their rifles, so there's really no point in them being there. So we basically just routed them by taking out their tank.
The Imperials are running off for now. Looks like we bought some time at least.
Welks, it's a boy. Martha had a boy.
She gave birth in Dad's tank?
Tank boy?
Yes, and without complications. They're both perfectly healthy.
Good. That's fantastic. Now let's stay sharp as we head out of town.
Stay frosty and alert. Hey, I think I did really good. Still bummed out about the town watch guy getting ambushed, but what you gonna do? And actually, when you get into the later missions and you start having named characters and stuff for all of your squad members, there is actually a way to save people who get taken down. So even when a character goes down, that doesn't necessarily mean they're dead unless a very specific set of circumstances occurs. which is cool. So those town watch guys are really just kind of disposable while you're learning the game.
2 hours after the first shots were fired, Brule was under Imperial control. Though a mere skirmish by Empire standards, the raid on Brule would mark Welkin Gunther's first taste of battle and begin his rise to a Gallian hero.
Alicia.
I thought I would be ready for this. I knew war meant this might happen. It hurts. Seeing my town overrun like this, seeing all those people killed, it's just not right. How could all this happen? It isn't human, Welkin.
We look at those birds and see how wild and free they are. But they all have their own territories. If anything threatens their home, they'll risk their lives to defend it. People are animals too. We do what we have to, when we have to. Animals are in a constant struggle to stay alive, but I've also seen them help each other, almost like they were cooperating in order to survive.
Cooperating?
That's why I'm so into studying natural science. That coexistence. I want to know how it works. If we could figure that out, mankind could put it to use for our own survival. That's why I want to be a teacher, so that I can pass that knowledge on to the children. I mean, even if we can't completely eliminate war, at least we might learn to live together as one people.
You think so?
Welks, look. Martha fell asleep, so that makes me the babysitter. See, Alicia?
Oh, he's adorable.
Just like you said, even in war, new life happens all around us. Come here. Look, that's your hometown.
Someday, we'll come back home again.
Yes. Someday soon. I know it.
Chapter 3. Vassal Urban Warfare. In March of 1935, the Empire began its invasion across Gallia's eastern border. Maximilian, commander of the Gallian invasion front, built his army around mobile armor. Ghirlandaio and the other fortresses along the border fell to his tanks in quick succession. Brule's fall in under 2 hours was typical of villages in the Empire's path, and the road to the capital bore a steady flow of refugees. Randgries, Gallia's capital, a town secure and stable since ancient times. Within its walls stood the castle Randgries, and within its unicorn spire resided Cordelia, Gallia's princess. Supporting Gallia's policy of neutrality was a system of universal conscription. Under it, all schools required military training each year. In the event of a war, citizens were then drafted into the militia to defend their country. As the conflict with the East grew worse, Both Welkin and Alicia found themselves no exceptions to that fate.
So these are my new digs. Oh, my uniform. I should get changed before reporting in. Better get ready now. Flares, binoculars, a compass, and a map. Everything you need for a nice hike. Or combat.
I like that line.
Welkin? Can I come in?
Sure, it's open.
Oh, you're already changed too. Let's see. Not bad, not bad. You look good, actually. So, how about me? Do I look all right in this? Convincing?
Let's take a look. Yeah, you look fine. You wear it like a pro.
Really? You're not just saying that?
Of course not. You look tough. I like it.
Oh, good. I was worried it looked kind of silly.
No way. That plating on the back, it's like a coleopterate exoskeleton. Beetle-tastic.
Colio what? And did you just say beetle? Welkin? What kind of girl wants to hear that she looks like a bug?
Huh? Not just any bug. A rhinoceros beetle. King of the insects. Who wouldn't want that?
Uh-huh. I guess I'll just try to take that as a very Welkin sort of compliment.
Tell me about that scarf. You've been wearing it since I met you.
Oh, this? It's part of my uniform from the bakery.
Is that right?
I don't want to forget the time I spent busting my buns baking. I plan to keep wearing it until I can get back to manning the ovens again.
That's great. Once you do, I'll be first in line to get some of that bread.
Is that a promise? Well, I'll be sure to have plenty of it ready and waiting for you.
Absolutely. Hey, if you're ready, we should probably go see the captain now.
Yeah, you know, 'cause like there's a war and stuff. I do appreciate the fact that they try to like add some flavor text and like try to develop like the personalities and the relationships of the characters a bit, but sometimes it just seems kind of weird, like especially like the things they choose to talk about and like expand on. It's kind of like, okay, cool, bread, I'm down.
Come in. Excuse me, ma'am. Galleon Militia enlistee Welkin Gunther, reporting for duty.
Ma'am, Galleon Militia enlistee Alicia Melchiot, also reporting for duty.
I'm Captain Eleanor Varrot, commander of this regiment. Gunther, you're promoted to lieutenant. You'll be leader of Squad 7 now.
Ma'am.
Enlistee Melchiot, you're promoted to sergeant. You'll be under the lieutenant's command. Understood?
Ma'am!
What do you know? It is you. Nice coincidence, huh, Welkin?
Valdio? I had no idea that you'd enlisted.
Yeah. Now that there's a real war going on, I joined up. Pretty much all the officer and training boys are here just like you.
You know each other?
Yes, ma'am. We knew each other at university. Welcome was in science and I was in archaeology. And just look at us now. No archaeology or science. Looks like the two of us are studying war, I guess.
Looks that way. It's good to see you.
And you.
That'll be all for now. There's a strategy briefing later today, but you still have time. Time for you to catch up. You'll be spending a lot of time on the post and in Randbreeze. They'll be your new home, so get to know them. That'll be all. Report back in time for the briefing. Until then, you're dismissed.
Okay, so this is kind of where the game starts to open up a little bit, and we kind of start to kind of claw our way out of tutorial mode. Like, there's actually still a couple of more missions worth of tutorializing. Even after you technically get out of what I would consider to be the tutorial phase of the game, there's still kind of new concepts and new things being introduced, like, throughout the campaign. But like, this is where things start to really blossom out, and you get into some of the more RPG-ish mechanics. Basically, where you like pick your squad, configure them, and start getting into like training your squad members to like use the XP that you get from previous missions. Start researching weapons and upgrades for the tank and stuff like that. And all that takes place kind of in this separate interface. Basically, like, you gain access to the barracks, and then you can come back here at any point in the campaign and spend XP or, otherwise upgrade your units. One interesting thing, which I'll probably show in a little bit here, is when you train and do your unit upgrades, it's not per soldier like you might expect. You actually earn XP for everything that you do that goes into a shared pool, and then you upgrade units by type. So basically you have like scouts, shock troopers, snipers, lancers, and engineers. And rather than upgrading individual people based on XP, you upgrade each class of unit, and then every individual character who falls into that class benefits from that upgrade, which is kind of a different, sort of unique take on the XP leveling system for like an RPG or a tactical strategy game. I'm really not sure quite how I feel about it, to be honest. I get what they were going for, and I appreciate the fact that like it takes some of the micromanagement out of dealing with your squad, especially like when you start dealing with situations where you've got 20 or more people in your squad. It's nice to not have to necessarily manage every little detail about them and kind of just treat them as classes of soldier. But at the same time, you lose a little bit of that intimate granularity that you get from like having a smaller party of like, say, 3 to 5 characters that you really manage the nitty gritty of and minutia of everything they do. So it's, you gain some stuff and you lose some stuff depending on your point of view with this system. But what I'm going to do real quick is just try to blaze through these menus and kind of get the introductory stuff out of the way, and maybe we'll try to do one more mission before I wrap the stream up, because I kind of don't want to show too much more of the game, because I really feel like if you're interested in this game, you're going to be way better off playing it than you are watching me play it. But I also feel like it's one of those sorts of games where you have to see quite a bit of it before you really understand whether or not it's going to be something that you'd be interested in playing. But you can see here I've got a few people kind of baked into my squad. So like you have your named characters, obviously Welkin and Alicia, and then you get these 2 new characters when you get to this point, Rosie and Largo, who are kind of like integral story characters that like factor heavily into how things unfold, at least initially in the game. But that's basically like the start of your squad that you get by default. And then you go into the actual command room to draft the rest of your squad, which you will need to do before you can actually complete the next mission.
It's good to see you doing the rounds. Welcome. This is the command room. Use it to structure your squad. You will have access to both drafted and volunteer recruits. Now that I think of it, Squad 7 is still short on soldiers, isn't it? I'll explain how this works. This is the master list. The recruits have all been assigned classes based on their talents. I should probably touch on the 5 classes, just so we're clear. First off, you have the scouts. Just like the name suggests, they'll be your eyes. Their best asset is their mobility. They can go out, collect intel, then make it back safely. That, and a keen eye for enemies. A good scout can spot a man in tall grass from 100 yards. That comes at the price of firepower. Their job is spotting enemies, not taking them out. Next up, the shock trooper. They're the ones to break through enemy lines and clean up. They offer excellent offense and defense. As far as combat goes, they're as good as it gets. While they lack any specialized techniques, they also don't have any obvious shortcomings. Think of them as the least finicky unit in your squad, Lieutenant. After them, we have Lancers, then anti-tank units. They're critical when facing armored targets. Their purpose is pretty self-explanatory. In most cases, they're the only way to stop a tank. They're also well shielded from explosives, which conveniently includes tank mortars. Sadly, they're slow and weak to gunfire. Their limited ammo could also be called a drawback. Changing gears, we have the Engineers.